Story 1. They kicked me out at 16. Now they want to, quote, reconnect.
I was always the black sheep. My sister was the golden child. Straight A's, cheerleading, beauty pageants, awards covering every inch of her bedroom wall. She could do no wrong. I, on the other hand, was the quote-unquote weird one. I liked drawing, kept to myself, and asked me questions they didn't want to answer. My parents constantly compared us. Why can't you be more like your sister turned into, you're just a burden? When I was 16, I got into an argument with my dad. He found out I had been skipping school to work under the table jobs. I was saving up to move up because I couldn't take the constant yelling anymore. That night, they packed a bag for me and told me to leave. No warning, no backup plan, no money, just a "you made your bed, now lie in it" speech and the slam of the front door behind me. I couch surfed for a few weeks until I started sleeping in my car. I worked every job I could find: dishwashing, stocking shelves, cleaning offices overnight. During that time, I taught myself graphic design on a beat-up old laptop I pulled from a dumpster and fixed. I found freelance gigs online. Then I built a small design business. Then I built a team. Then I branched out into marketing, consulting, e-commerce. Fast forward a few years, I'm now 25, running 3 companies and making more in a month than my parents made in a year. I live simply, by choice. No sports car, no mansion, just peace. I never heard from them, not once. No birthdays, no holidays, not even a "how are you?" Until 2 months ago, my sister DM'd me out of the blue. "Hey stranger, heard you're doing really well. We should totally catch up. Mom and Dad miss you." At first I ignored it. Then the emails started. Then a phone call from a number I didn't recognize. It was my mom. She launched into this speech about how they were so proud of me and how family is everything. I asked her what changed. She hesitated and said, "Well, your sister's going through a tough time, and we just thought maybe you could help out, maybe take her on or offer a loan." Take her on, like she's a stray cat or something. I asked her where all this love was when I was sleeping in a freezing car at 17. She got quiet, said I was being cold. I told her cold was what I felt that night they kicked me out. They tried guilt. "We're still your parents," I said, "and I was still your son. That didn't stop you." They called me just the intern. Now, I own the company. I started as an unpaid intern at a mid-sized marketing agency when I was 18. Fresh out of high school, no degree, no connections, just grit, a secondhand laptop, and an unhealthy addiction to iced coffee. Everyone treated me like background noise. They never used my name, just, "Hey, intern." The receptionist got more respect than I did. Once, during a meeting, I pitched a campaign idea that could have easily brought in 6 figures. My manager laughed and said, "Let the adults talk." 2 weeks later, they launched the exact same campaign and gave him the credit. That was the moment I knew I wasn't staying where I wasn't valued. I worked quietly, learned everything I could, and built up a freelance client base on the side. Social media strategy, web design, anything I could teach myself after hours. I slept about 4 hours a night for 2 years. Then I left. No dramatic exit, no "I quit" speech, just a polite email and a LinkedIn status update. Fast forward 5 years, I now run a boutique agency with 15 employees, fully remote. We're lean, fast, and laser focused. Last quarter, we acquired a struggling firm to expand our client list. Guess which one? Yep, the same agency I interned at. They didn't even realize it was me until after the paperwork was signed. The manager who stole my idea now works under one of my employees, a former intern I hired after seeing a little of myself in him. Last week, he emailed me directly, asked if I'd be open to mentoring him. I replied, "Let the adults talk," and archived the thread. Story 3. Rent due. Respect not included. I moved into that rundown building when I was 22. It was all I could afford. A tiny one-bedroom with cracked tiles, a stove from the 80s, and heat that barely worked. The landlord, let's call him Jerry, not his real name, lived in Unit 101, the nicest spot in the place, with hardwood floors and central air, funded by rent he refused to spend on the rest of us. Jerry hated kids like me, lazy, entitled, and a nuisance, he said. When I asked him to fix my bathroom ceiling that was literally leaking through the light fixture, he said, "Don't like it?
Move. I've got 10 people waiting. The hallway lights stayed broken for months, laundry machines were always out, and mold grew in the basement. But rent went up every year, no matter what. One winter, after I got laid off from my warehouse job, I told Jerry I might be late on rent by a few days. He flipped and said, "If you can't pay, get out." I paid on time anyway, but the next week, an eviction notice was taped to my door. He claimed I was harassing management, whatever that meant. I fought it in court, but without money for a lawyer, I lost. I was out by March, broke, humiliated. I wasn't going to let that be the end. I picked up every freelance gig I could find, websites, graphics, anything. I learned business and real estate basics, saved every penny. After a few years, I bought a couple of small properties and slowly built my savings. Then I saw it. Jerry's building was on the market. I couldn't believe it. The same cracked bricks, the same peeling paint, Jerry still living in Unit 101, ignoring tenants, neglecting repairs, and acting like a king. I made an offer and bought it. When I showed up with the keys, Jerry didn't recognize me. To him, I was just a kid he kicked out years ago. I walked into Unit 101 with a contractor and immediately saw the damage. Water stains, mold, exposed wiring, broken fixtures, things he had ignored for years. I served him a legal notice to vacate due to lease violations and unit damage. Jerry called me every name in the book. I just smiled and said, "I'm the landlord now." He was gone within 30 days. I fixed the building properly, treated tenants with respect, and made sure no one ever felt powerless like I did. Some people call it petty revenge. I call it justice. Story 4. They kicked me out at 16. Now they want back in. Growing up, I was the afterthought. My sister was the golden child. Dance recitals, straight A's, shiny birthday parties. I liked taking things apart and fixing them. Computers, radios. I once rebuilt a broken Game Boy from spare parts. My dad said, "You waste too much time on junk." At 14, I got a part-time job at a corner store. By 15, I was buying my own clothes, paying for my own phone, and keeping my head down. My parents said it was building character. Meanwhile, my sister got a car for turning 17. Then came the incident. I was 16. My sister told my parents she found something in my backpack, something that smelled funny and was definitely not allowed in the house. I don't mess with that stuff. Never have. I knew instantly it wasn't mine. I also knew they weren't going to believe me. They didn't. No questions, no discussion. I was told to pack a bag and leave that night. I didn't even get a chance to explain. My mom cried, but she didn't stop it. My dad stood with his arms crossed and said, "Actions have consequences." That was the last thing he ever said to me in person. I stayed with a friend for a couple weeks, then bounced between couches and shelters. No one called, no one helped. I dropped out of school, picked up full-time work wherever I could, warehouse shifts, phone repairs. I spent nights teaching myself coding, using free Wi-Fi and a secondhand laptop someone gave me. I stopped trying to prove anything to anyone. By 19, I was freelancing. By 21, I had steady clients. I moved across the country, rented a tiny studio, and just kept building. I didn't post about it. I didn't tell anyone. By 26, I was running a web development company. Full-time, employees, health benefits, 2 rental properties, debt-free. Then, out of nowhere, I got an email. "We miss you. Let's talk. Family's important." It was my mom. Then my dad. "We're proud of what you've accomplished." Then the kicker. My sister emailed asking if I could help fund her wedding. "Just the deposit on the venue," she said. "Family discount." I ignored the first few, then finally responded. "You kicked me out at 16 over a lie. I built this life without you. I'm not angry. I just don't owe you anything." No reply. They weren't proud. They were just embarrassed. Ashamed they bet against me and lost. I'm not mad anymore. I'm not bitter. I just don't save seats for people who watched me drown. Story 5. He said I'd never make it. Now I sign his paychecks. Growing up, I was that kid. The one who couldn't sit still, couldn't focus, always had late assignments. Teachers called me lazy. Family called me slow. No one thought to ask why I struggled. They just assumed I wasn't trying hard enough. My uncle was the loudest. He owned a small construction company and made it his mission to humiliate me at every family gathering. Called me space cadet, dead weight. Once told my parents they should start saving for whatever rehab I'd eventually end up in. He'd say it with a laugh, but he meant every word. When I told my family I wanted to study computer science, they barely reacted. My uncle outright laughed, said, "You? Tech? You can't even finish a sentence." They didn't help with tuition, didn't offer advice. They just assumed I'd drop out and come crawling back. I didn't. I worked part-time fixing phones and laptops. I took summer classes, winter classes, anything to stay on track. It took me 5 years to get my degree, not because I failed, but because I was building a freelance client list on the side. Real-world experience, money, momentum. By 26, I had co-founded a small IT services company with a former classmate. I handled the operations, tech support contracts, repair jobs, infrastructure installs. He handled sales. We weren't flashy, but we were efficient. 2 years in, we landed a contract with a city department that needed networking infrastructure overhauled in every municipal building they owned. It was our biggest project yet. We needed boots on the ground, installers, field techs, cable runners, electricians. We posted listings. One of the resumes looked familiar. I thought it was a prank. It was my uncle. Turns out his construction business folded during COVID. Divorce, debt, equipment repossessed. Now he was applying for low-voltage install work through a subcontractor we were using. He had no idea I was the owner. I didn't reject him. He showed up to orientation in a wrinkled shirt, visibly tired, holding on to the last of his pride. I didn't say anything. Neither did he. But the look on his face when I introduced myself to the new hires was something I'll never forget. He still works here, quiet, punctual, respectful. Not once has he made a comment about the past. Last December, he got a holiday bonus like everyone else. He cashed it without a word. I don't need an apology. I don't even need acknowledgement. But every time he turns in a timesheet with my name at the top, I know he remembers. And so do I. Hey everyone, thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more real, raw Reddit stories. If you want to see more, just drop a comment below. I'm always looking for new topics. Thanks again for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next video.